Yo, what's going on? It's your boy Keep It Mike. You listen to the Tape Deck in combination with the Ruckus. And tonight I got, a fun little topic I want to drop out here. Don't worry, I'm not gonna bombard you, you know what I mean? It's just a little taste. Not even a taste, just a little something that I'm doing now, you know what I mean? I got this thing called the Cuban Empire Strikes Back. And in this segment, if you follow me through social media and even through the my podcast and the radio show, I try to bring a lot of Cuban awareness. Outside of the Cuban awareness, I do hip hop and acting, for those that don't know. But during the past, I'll say 6 to 7 months after the whole election thing came by, there's been this weird thing. It's not the first or second time that it happened, but there's been this thing amongst the Cuban community, that the Latino community, that been just coming after us just because of political views or the way that we vote, or just the Trumpers or MAGA, or whatever the case may be. But it's just been unnecessary attack, bullying. I mean, quite frankly, I don't give a fuck. The people I got with me, they don't give a fuck. But we just want to express our views and thoughts with the whole situation. I got some Cuban guests out here. I got my man Nelson in the building. I got Spanglish. They came to the show a couple of times to show love, man. So we're out here, show their expressive views of what's going on with this topic. Before I even start, Nelson. So you in New York?
I was in New York.
You was in New York?
I am fresh off of the Diddy trial. Yes.
Yes. And how did that go? How was that experience like?
Well, someone got kicked out of the courtroom in the first 30 minutes, so that was fun.
Ah!
There was this lady who yelled out, "Why are you persecuting Mr. Combs?" or whatever, and they ejected her, which actually is a kind of a good look on Diddy's part, because it would seem like he has supporters and all that stuff. So that stays, even though they threw her out, it's too late. That stays in the jury's mind.
Yeah.
Um, Aside from that, they had this ex security guard from the Intercontinental named Eddie Garcia, who apparently signed an NDA after accepting $100,000 from Diddy to get the tape of him beating the crap out of Cassie. They also kind of defunct that whole testimony because he also signed NDAs from other people, and apparently that part I kind of it's a little fuzzy. Apparently, he had signed that NDA prior to knowing who Diddy was or something like that. I don't know. Regardless, that was a very faulty testimony. And then we had Mia, his former assistant, who claimed, just like everybody else, that's like, oh my god, yeah, I was scared of him. But then they have screenshots of text messages, basically. I'm gonna keep it PG on here because typically I get a little rowdy, but she was basically
Yeah, you don't have to give it PG. We raw uncut, baby.
she was basically asking Diddy to have sex with her, and like she was basically admitting she was in love with him and all this stuff. And so it,
Nice.
I guess,
Yeah.
this trial, and I'm gonna stick to my guns here. They have nothing on him coming from someone who was charged by the federal government. The feds, even on conspiracy, they don't have him. Like, they have nothing on this guy. They're trying to charge him with RICO. RICO, for everyone out there, RICO is one of the easiest charges to prove. That's why they always hit mafia and like organized crime with RICO, because it's like the easiest thing to stick them with.
Yeah.
It's illegal business. You can track the money, the guns, the illegal, whatever's going on, all that stuff, the organized crime. It's very easy to pinpoint. They can't pinpoint it in this case, and it's something that should be the easiest to prove. People are trying to say, oh, the guns. There's no 924C or 922G on his case. Basically, I know that's a whole bunch of jargon, but 922G means possession of a weapon. 924C is a 5-year minimum mandatory because it involved drugs and a weapon in the case. There's none of that in the indictment. None of that in the indictment. Aside from that, oh yeah, the prostitutes. I mean, if you indict him for paying prostitutes, you'd have to indict every rapper known to man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's a whole lot of nothing. Oh yeah, he burned Kid Cudi's car. No, Kid Cudi thinks that Diddy burned his car. There's no proof that
Ah. All right.
you know what I mean? So there's been nothing up until this point. I'm sticking to my guns. Diddy walks.
Okay. Okay. I heard two things on social media. One, they had like a crew there, like this free puffy crew, whatever. But I also heard that crew there were like paid servicemen to like make it look like they're big
I wouldn't
supporters.
doubt it. I wouldn't
Yeah.
doubt it if they were paid. I can't confirm or deny,
All right.
but
No, but you didn't see any of that. You didn't see any of that when you were out there. You didn't see
no,
any.
no, not
No.
really.
All
and
right.
I called it a day. I didn't stay the whole day. I basically saw enough to say, all right, I don't think I need to stay the whole day, and I rode out. Oh, also something very important. Brian Steele, who's known as like the hip hop attorney, um, I was not a fan of his. He actually represented a personal friend of mine in this case and did a horrible job. Um, Brian Steele stuck up in this specific case. He did really good. He interrogated Mia so much to the point where the judge spoke up and said, you know, Mr. Steele, we need to be aware of how we're interrogating witnesses, because if you keep interrogating people like this, it's going to deter people from taking the stand. And inside of my head, I'm like, that's his job.
Yeah.
That's his job. That means he's doing great,
Yeah.
you know? So, yeah,
Okay.
that's the press was pretty light that day. It was
Really?
no near as heavy. Yeah. Once I
Hmm.
was leaving, there was the usual, but there wasn't like hundreds of people outside. And it was pretty light. It was pretty light. I guess, I don't know. Maybe at this point, people are kind of like, all right, this is dragged on. I'm not going to, whatever happens, happens.
No
But
investment of it. It's
yeah,
not.
yeah, exactly.
It's not the hot story. It's not the hot story anymore.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you hear anything? Because I heard there was an incident where one of his old bodyguards had to slap some YouTuber.
I didn't see that. I
Okay.
heard something about that, but I didn't see it myself.
Okay. I gotta find the interview because like the guy tells a story what happened with him and the YouTuber, and let's just say he smacked Earth, Wind, and Fire under the dude.
Yeah. 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 So
So all right.
that's I'm sticking to my guns. I think Diddy walks. I think this
All
case is
right.
now let's separate that for a second. Diddy has lost in the court of public opinion, with myself
Oh
included.
yeah.
He's not a good person. The things he's done are disgusting. He should be in the deepest, darkest hole and in the New York State prison possible. Cassie signed the NDA and that whole non whatever it's called, and took
Yeah.
the 20 million. That's why they cannot pursue him in a state court, because she
Ah.
had to pursue like him for any legalities whatsoever once she accepted the 20 million from him. So for people out there that are like, oh, but he's caught on camera like beating the crap out of her. Yeah, she signed paperwork to accept $20 million.
Yeah.
He wouldn't come after him, and she took the money. So that's why that case is all that domestic abuse. It's inadmissible. They can't use it.
Wow. What a
So
smart scumbag. Jesus. Oh, what
I
what
mean,
did he do to you?
look, let's be real here. Like, we're human. If any human is accepted an exuberant amount of money to do anything, more than likely they're gonna accept it. Let's be real here. So
Can I lie? Look, listen, the way that thing is going right now, even with the camera, I'll probably wait for it with my dumb ass.
I'm just saying, like, these people are trying to be at this point victims. Which, by the way, every single one of them, don't get it twisted, every single one of them has gotten immunity for getting their testimony. Every single one of them. I don't care what anybody tells me. All of them are complicit. Like, the only one who wasn't accomplice to something was Kid Cudi.
Yeah.
Everybody else, the security guard, the assistant, Cassie, all of them were complicit to a point. So all of them,
Oh,
100%, I can tell you right now, have signed an immunity deal for their testimony.
wow.
100%. I don't
Wow.
doubt it. I'm sorry for what Cassie's been through, but also she willingly did a lot
Yeah,
better.
well, then he actually willingly did. There's no way to get around it. That's why I got hard to sympathize with once the text came out and all that other stuff. It was hard. It was hard. Because now it became like a volunteer. Oh, that husband must be going through it right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Ugh.
Anyway,
Uh,
so yeah, that's my take, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you for the briefing. I feel like now back to you, Spanglish. Stop. I feel like it's 6 o'clock news up in here. All right, Ben.
That's
So
a
let's
lot.
light. So let's lighten the mood up for a second. Spanglish, how are you?
I'm
You
doing
good?
good,
You
doing
good out here?
well.
Yeah. So just to lighten up the mood, I want to say, what are your what do you prefer? What are your pronouns? What are your genders? Do you prefer is he, she, him, they, and them?
Call
Because a
me
lot
interested.
the girl with glasses, no problem. Because a lot has changed after the web. Because you know what? Every time I do an episode with you, we always touch it. Well, in my TikTok world, I always touch a nerve. So we either going after the Jews. So right now we're a whole bunch of Jew-loving people that defend Israel right now. We are
This is a
well,
Zionist channel, people. This
yeah,
is a
yeah,
Zionist
we're Zionists. Yeah, we're Zionists, Israel
out
people
here.
loving. Yeah, yeah. Between that, not being on the right side of history because we didn't vote a certain way. So we're just deplorable human beings in my TikTok world. But the good thing about
Right.
TikTok world, they forget about it like in two
I'm an
weeks.
ex-con. I'm the scum of the earth, brother. I'm used to that. So
Oh, all right. I'm not used to it. I'm usually kind of lovable, but I guess on TikTok, I'm just a terrible human being. But I'll take it. I'll take it for now. I want to get to you, and I guess because I'm like I said, I'm not from your neck of the woods, but you are in Florida, and Florida is deep, deep, deep conservative, especially within us, the Cuban community. And I guess I'll ask you, what is it? Because this is the first time I went a certain route voting, so it's all new to me. I always tell people, even though I went this way, I still got, eh, I hate to say the word liberal views, but I'm still Democrat. I'm still Democrat on certain things. But this turnaround, I took a different view, and the reason why I took the different view is because the issue was going on in Cuba, which I feel as though I trust them more in that department when it comes to the cost that we're talking about. But what is it with um the Latin community that has this thing amongst us that has this deep rooted hate? Like they really like don't like us, as you can see what happened with it Funky. That they just got this thing they're wishing terrible things on us. What is it?
I think it's a mix of things. The fact that for so many decades, Cubans have had different ways of paths, we could say, to becoming documented, either residents or citizens. And we as Cubans have participated. I mean, some of it comes from that, right? Being that people think that Cubans have this privilege just because they're Cuban. Like, why should they be getting all these policies like the one we used to have, wet foot, dry foot policy? Why should they be granted the Cuban Adjustment Act? Okay, at the 1 year and a day, you can apply for residency if you're in the US. Like, why should they? Why should they? Like, because up to a certain point and up to a certain time, just a little bit ago, people didn't realize that Cuba is a dictatorship. And we as Cubans have been silent for so long because we have played into maybe out of embarrassment, maybe out of a little bit of shame, even, which is the same thing, but not. We have played into the fact that people have believed that Cuba's a paradise, and we have been like, oh, see, well, yeah, it's pretty. And like, we just kind of go along when people say, it's nice there. They say it's really nice. And we don't want to get into deep conversations and we don't want to get into arguments. So we just kind of go along and be like, oh, well, that was me up to some years ago. Because you didn't want to say, well, espérate, no, that's not paradise. So we participated in people believing that in Cuba, everything's okay. So people didn't really see a need for Cubans to have all of these immigration exceptions, because why would they? They're just like everybody else. What makes them any better? And so now the thing is that people are starting to realize that Cuba is a dictatorship. Cuba is an oppressive regime. People are oppressed in Cuba. Like, it's a totally different reality from what everybody has thought. But at the same time, Cubans are complicit in people feeling that way, quite honestly. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but the fact that a lot of Cubans came through the border or came, as rafters, whatever, and said, look, I'm here because I'm oppressed in Cuba. I can't live in Cuba. It's not safe. I need a better future for my family, and I want to stay here. I'm claiming asylum. The fact that so many Cubans that claimed asylum and were granted this status go back to Cuba so soon after they get their residency. Go back to Cuba, and they're not even quite about, like, this is the thing about Cubans, my friend. We cannot be quiet. We cannot be discreet. We cannot do things and just be, at least not like part of our generation forward. We cannot just be like Cubans used to come to this country, tranquilo, callado, trabajar, just move forward, without too much hustle bustle, without too much, shine and bling. But now they want to post everything like, oh, I'm back in Cuba, I'm back in my country. I get it up to a certain point, but at the same time, we are to the point where we need to understand that that's counterproductive, and that has caused so many people to stop believing so many Cubans when they say Cuba is oppressive, Cuba's a regime. And then at the same time, they say, well, it is oppressive. Okay, we get it. It's a regime. Okay, we get it. It's not what we've been told. But why are you vacationing there then? Why are you going back? Why are you promoting the hotels to all these influencers that go back? You know what I'm saying? That's where the problem is. I think it's a mix of, yes, for years, people thought that Cubans were getting something they didn't deserve. And now they're like, okay, you deserve it. Why are you going back though? Like, there's no way of explaining that. There's no way of no sé cómo se dice la palabra, but to
say it in Spanish.
yeah, that. There's no way. There's no way to explain it. You know.
I think another thing I could add on to that is that we lack discipline. I don't know when did it started, but I know when my mom's generation, even when they gave it this kind of thing that say you could go back there, but you have to do this and the third to get over there. She's like, I'm not doing that because like, what's the purpose? You mean to tell me, like, for example, for those that don't know, Cuba has the most expensive passport in the whole wide world, and it's only valid to go to Cuba. I don't even know that. And I don't even, they went up now. Like, is it $600 now? Or the case with me? I know last time
something like that.
Yeah, it was 600 or whatever. And I believe they have to renew it every 2 years, not 10, right? It's like very brief.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So you have to renew it for like 2 years, and it's just like a whole mess. So the way my parents, and a lot of people's parents is like, yo, you mean to tell me you kicked me out because I don't agree with your politics? Then you say I could come back, but I have to pay for this, and I only have to pay for this. I have to renew it every 2 years, and because I left under these circumstances, I wouldn't be surprised if I have a cop follow me, a security guard follow me, the neighborhood snitch following me. You know, I can't walk in peace. There's going to be somebody in the back of my neck, you know, harassing me.
Speaking of having a chivaro on every corner, I was today years old when I found out that Tony Montana is from the same place as my friend Spanglish. So,
look at that!
In the house, yes.
Look at that! Look at that, ladies and gentlemen! Isn't that beautiful? He's from Santiago. Oh my God!
He's from Santiago. Well, you know what they call Santiago es la tierra caliente, so I wouldn't be surprised that.
Yeah, but let's be real here. He had a little habanero accent, so I don't know. They
well, because you know that it's the stereotypical accent. They couldn't make him sound Dominican like the Santiaguero sound because they would be like, "Whoa, he's not Cuban." People don't make that connection. Like you kind of had to make him with an habanero accent so it could stay.
Now on my bucket list to invite Oliver Stone on my podcast and ask him why he chose Santiago as the place of birth for Tony Montana. But anyway,
that's hilarious.
Don't stop there. Ask him why the fuck he still support the dictatorship and fucking praise Castro.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's Hollywood, you know. I mean, now I was a huge Yellowstone fan, and we got Kevin Costner over there now. You know that screwed up my whole Yellowstone thing.
Well, but everybody though, like if you're gonna just cancel out every single body, I think we just need to really just be aware of what's happening and how Hollywood has been complicit. But we can't possibly just just block everything because then we wouldn't watch anything. We wouldn't go anywhere. We wouldn't purchase anything.
Let's be real here. If you want to talk about hypocrites, Robert De Niro has got to be a devout communist at this point.
The worst.
Listen, how can me, as the biggest mafia movie fan on the planet, stop watching Casino, stop watching Raging Bull, stop watching Goodfellas? You know what I mean? Like, I can't stop watching those movies. Those are movies and I'll continue to watch them for the rest of my life.
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't like him personally and what the choice and things he said. You know, who remembers that? The gangsters. Who remembers that? You know, like, I guess.
I know. I mean, it's hard.
I like Al Pacino because he keeps his mouth shut and he's still having babies at 80. That's why I like. Anyway,
so you see, everybody's got time. Men have time. Y'all can do this till.
Look, listen, Al Pacino got like 8 good years in him left at best right now.
Listen, I bet you that's what people told him at 70, and he had a baby at 81 with a 29-year-old hot Hollywood producer. How about that?
There you go. There you go.
Didn't she stuck him too for child support? Did she stuck him?
Of course. Come
on. Look at that.
Hello.
Stuck him for child support. I can't even get fake love out here, man. He didn't even get fake love. He's like, got her pregnant, now I've got a deck now for life. Poor guy. I also want to ask, and I'll stick this one to you, Nelson. I had a friend of mine who, you know, I gotta shout out to Biz because that's my guy, and he's actually Dominican, but he grew up in Miami, so he lived amongst Cubans, and so he actually knows a lot about the Cuban culture. And it's funny because I live in Massachusetts. Is predominantly Dominican, so we always have this running joke. I'm Dominican Mike and he's Cuban Biggs, so this is the whole thing we have with each other. And he did ask me though, because why is it with Cuba? You know, he was talking about how we had this special privilege, and we were going back and forth. It was good, healthy debate, and he's like, "Why don't you why won't other countries, a la Haiti, Venezuela, all the people go through it, get the same privilege that we do? And my answer for that is like, well, our story is just unique. We would love to save the world, but unfortunately, that's not realistic. Now, what they could do is put laws upon their world and say, like, how can we do what they did? So I say this to say this, like, what do you say to people that feel as though that we should, that the United States should give those kind of privilege as to oppose that the Cubans have?
Can we clarify something, that it's not up to Cubans what happens to them in the United States? It's up to the United States government what happens to them in the United States.
Please do tell.
This whole thing of like, oh yeah, Cubans. It's like, buddy, I'm not the president of the United States. I'm not Donald Trump. I'm not Bill. I'm not.
Biden.
How could I? I don't know.
It's a cognitive. It's a cognitive mental.
You want to forget?
Yeah, I do.
It's a cognitive. It's a cognitive mental thing all set out there on top.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, Cubans. Oh, porque los cubanos. And it's like, dude, it's up to the federal government. You know why we have these laws in place? Because Cubans become politicians and they lobby for their people. So if you want the same thing, get a Venezuelan to become an American citizen, go become a politician and lobby for your people. Go get a Haitian to become a politician. Bro, say what you want to say. We got, and I don't even agree with most of these people, but we got Maria Salazar, we got Carlos Jimenez, we got Diaz Balart, we got Bob Mendez. Like, bro.
No, don't mention Bob.
Not to mention Marco Rubio, who's now the Secretary of State. Like, Cubans, maybe because we do something to lobby for ourselves. How about, I don't know, maybe? Is that a concept? You know what I mean? Just my point of view. And also, we've been in this country longer. Like, there's things you have to take into account. We've been coming here since the 50s. You know what I mean? We didn't start coming when Hugo Chavez took over Venezuela in 1990, whatever, or the early 2000s. Right. We started coming in the 50s, then in the 70s, then again in the 80s, then again in the 90s. You know, like, it's waves of us coming and coming and coming. So some things to take into account. Me personally, like, that is just, I'll leave it at that, I guess.
No, but you're absolutely right. How many Cubans are a part of the government in Congress, and not even at those levels, state levels? There are so many Cubans, in politics, advocating, and not just now, for decades. And they're not only in politics, they're in, like you said, they're lobbying. They're part of nonprofit organizations. They're part of the Catholic Church, which has been huge in helping the Cuban exiles. So, I mean, that's the answer. That's the answer. You gave it. I mean, Cubans have representation because the Cuban people have made it a goal to be part of the lawmaking process.
I think the differentiator with us is that, and this isn't a shot at anyone else who's Hispanic from another country. Cubans.
Hold on, guys. Hold on.
So, like I was saying, we've been like Cubans have representation. We've been coming here for years, and a big differentiator from us and other Hispanic cultures is, I think, we come to the United States with the intention of integrating into the United States. Other Hispanic cultures come to the United States with the intention of living like kind of like the same life they used to, or not, at least not the same life, but kind of like integrating their culture into wherever they are, which we've done obviously with Miami, but like Yuma and all that, like we have like this fantasy kind of like thing when we come to the United States, and it's like, oh my God, like the American flag and American culture and freedom. So that's a main thing with us. Like, our vision is to like integrate here. Whereas other Hispanic cultures, I don't think is the same. I don't think their intention is to integrate here. Their intention is just to get here.
Yeah. I agree. You know why? Because, and let me add to that. I think a lot of people, when they come here from other countries, they don't lose the connection with the place they come from. Not that we do automatically, but the thing is that when Cubans leave Cuba, they want to leave for good. Yeah. They know that they're not going back to live. Mind you, there are some people that may. Those are the few, who those are. Mm-hmm. But in general, a lot of people come from other Hispanic countries. They come here to work, and they don't lose that fantasy, that ilusión to go retire back in their homeland, to
Exactly.
build a house with the money they're making here. Like they keep that connection flowing. When we come from Cuba, we cut ties because we know we can't come back. We can't go back. So this becomes our home. And this is our future. And that's why so many Cubans are so invested, so involved in the US politics and then the whole process, because this is now home. Like we have, unless Cuba becomes free, which we do still hope it becomes free, this is home and it will be home for our future generations.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed,
Well,
100%.
well said. Well said. Let's see what else. Spanglish. I've gotten this, so I'll ask you the same questions. Have you gotten any? I'll ask you too, Nelson. Any funny like messages when you posted your videos, like behind the scenes, like the haters? Have you gotten like any haters behind the scenes about the videos, the things that you post,
I
and
think in my case, we have to be specific to maybe when I had like my first viral clip and I was talking about Cuba, because at this point, I can tell you some really crazy DMs and comments I get.
Oh, please do tell. Please do tell.
It's a different genre now.
Because we're addressing the haters today. So what are the craziest things you've gotten?
I mean, I recently had on George Valdez, the original Cocaine Cowboy, on my podcast. The biggest guest I had ever had up until that point. I think up until this point still. I mean, amazing story. A man who did some wild stuff, like was importing cocaine into the United States when no one was doing it in the 1970s. When no one was doing it in the 1970s, this man was bringing in 600 kilos a month. Goes to prison, comes out, does it again, like eventually goes to prison again, eventually learns his lesson, totally turns around his life, is a born-again Christian, has a great relationship with his grandkids, his kids, is like the man I want to be at his age. And like when I post these clips, it is to kind of, it's the purpose of posting a clip of like him talking about importing 600 kilos a month is to grab your attention and make you pay attention to the man he's become. It's not to make you like glorify what he did. It's to make you pay attention to, wow, in spite of what he did, look at what he's been able to accomplish. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you'll get stupid comments like, oh, you're glorifying criminals. Oh, like you guys belong in prison. Oh my God, another gangster story. Like these crazy just things that I get on a like continual basis. Oh my God, like actually, I had a video that got like 800,000 views in a day, and it actually got taken down by Instagram, and I got a strike on my account and everything.
Wow, are you serious?
Yeah, because somebody reported the video, and it was like, bro, like, oh, no. And then the strike said, oh, because you're promoting drug dealing, and it's like, bro, that's a story from 45 years ago. Like, really? I'm not, you know what I mean?
Wow.
So in my case, the haters are like on another level. So much so that I have to like play this game where like I censor words on my videos. When they go to say a drug, instead of saying the actual drug, I'll like mute it or beep it. And it's like, it's really stupid. We should be adults and know that like I can say Percocet or cocaine or marijuana and it's not a big deal, but that's kind of like the world we live in anyway. So yeah.
It's insane because I be watching, I keep, I'm a hip hop nerd. So like, there's a lot of music videos where they promote violence and gun talk and drug dealers and misogynistic and stripper and butt cheeks and this, that, and the third. So it's it's interesting how they pick and choose of what they want to attack and who they want to attack.
Yeah, Young Thug can admit to things that get him in a RICO case.
Yeah,
they want to censor me when I have an old man who's telling a story of something that he did 45 years ago.
And it's basically a cautionary tale. It's not something they say go do. It's a cautionary tale.
100% a cautionary tale. Everything on my podcast is cautionary tales. The point of the sensational stories is to draw your attention, but it's to make you pay attention to the things that person regrets, the things you shouldn't do, and who they are today, who they've become in spite of making those decisions.
Yeah. What about yourself, Spanglish? What are the fun DMs you got in behind the scenes?
Oh, people tell me, I hope you get deported.
My favorite.
People, that's the main one. Like people tell me you don't know until it happens to you. You don't care about immigrants until it happens to you. And then you get deported and then they'll find an excuse to make it sound legal and just justify their actions. So yeah, I do get that because of the the type of content I make, that's mostly the haters comments. It has to do right now with the current climate
Yeah.
with immigration. That it varies from time to time, but right now it's immigration. Surprisingly, I do get comments, but I don't get as many as you would expect. I get more hate comments in the comment section. I don't
Oh,
get so many people trying to get, in the DMs arguing. I do from time to time.
yeah.
They don't really go the DM route a lot.
You know
Not that much.
what's something interesting that recently happened? Trump announced he's going to have 10,000 clemencies throughout his term. And I'd like to point out that most of the crimes that he's pardoning people for are actually laws that were put into place by Joe Biden in the 90s. So what I think is very, very interesting is that Trump, hate him or love him, he's about to do 10,000 clemencies for federal prisoners that have been in prison a very long time, who should not be there, who have been they broke the law, but they were railroaded and they shouldn't be in prison anymore. What race are these people that are getting clemencies? Are they white? No, they're Hispanic and black.
Okay, black.
So what are we talking about here? Like,
right.
Like who's helping what community? Like,
Yeah.
What did Joe Biden or that community like do to help? They didn't do anything. So
Well,
10,000.
people forgot. Sorry, Nelson. People forgot during his first term how he helped a lot of the people in prison. He did a lot for the people in prison, especially minorities.
He did. He was the first person to ever sign into law federal prison reform. It was called the First Step Act.
First Step Act.
It helped thousands upon thousands of people get out in like half their time or less in some cases. Me personally, I got out in half my time because of the FSA program, the First Step Act. And I currently work with a federal prison consulting company, and I handle all their Spanish calls. And the amount of people that we help get FSA credits is astounding. There's certain things you have to do to qualify, but that whatever. So, what are we talking about here? Like, the grand majority of people in prison are Hispanic or black. Yeah. There's no in between. If you look up the amount of white Caucasian Americans that are in prison, it's like the ratio is something stupid. It's like 5-1 or something like that. It's a very big ratio, distorted in the favor of minorities in the prison system. Yes. So his first term, he signs into law the first ever Federal Prison Reform Act, the First Step Act. His second term, he's signing 10,000 clemencies. So who's helping what community?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got put in an interesting spot, because not to say I didn't get my quote unquote haters, but I got in a weird spot because people that follow me, they've seen my story, and with my inner circle, they gave me this look like, all right, we know where you're gonna go at with your political views this time. We're gonna leave you alone. And even though they did leave you alone, they still gave me this like, really? Come on, I know you're doing it, but why? Like they told them, like, come tell me, like, look, I got receipts that everything that I've been putting on, or what the case may be, it hasn't been the Republicans that have been fucking us over. It's been Democrats. So once I tell them the full story, dating back since Kennedy with the Bay of Pigs, it's like they take like 5 steps forward and 20 steps back. 10 steps forward, 80 steps back, or whatever. So they do this thing that, you try to give them benefit of the doubt, and they just keep screwing us over. But just like Spanglish, I got a wild message or whatever. Once I did that, pointed the view of who I went for, I had one dude telling me, oh, you and your family's gonna be deported. And I'm like, bitch, I was born here. And the thing about I know the person. That's the thing that fucks me up. I know the motherfucker. Like, bitch, like, really, you got some fucking nerves. But I mean, he's a communist, so that's a whole other conversation. So you know how they think. So I got that. Then, I got the silly, once they see
I have a really interesting observation for the both of you. You ready for this one?
Hold that thought. Let me finish.
Yeah, hold on. Go ahead.
So I had that, and then I get these silly things, recently the whole Trump is gonna deport, he's gonna deny the TPS people that came over here, the temporary state or whatever. I get that said to be like, oh, how do you feel about him, deporting the Cubans like that? I'm like, most likely they came illegal, and it's not that is not our concern right now. And stop acting like you fake care about these immigrants, because you didn't have this type of energy when Obama did it. Not only that, you don't even have to say energy when Biden did it. Like people act like Biden didn't deport anybody. As a matter of fact, if you do your research, Biden deported more people than Trump did on his first term. So you will compete therefore Biden deported more people, I think, by like 4 million. And people just want to block all that conversation. They just want to have a story and making it stick, and it's not working. So it's been a long list of like shit and shenanigans. So then, when I get a message about like, something that happens to Cubans and it's always under Trump, he's like, oh, I hope you got everything that you voted for. I'm like, yeah, pretty much I did. Everything that I got for, I asked and he delivered. That's why you vote. I asked for this and I got it. What's the problem? What's the problem? And this whole like, one, you know how they get when they get that fake right to like one affects it affects us all as a human being, as a human race. I'm like, it's not affecting me, so go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself.
So funny enough, so I don't know if you guys. So first off, the entire federal prison system is infested with Trump supporters. Let's start there because he's the only. Let's start with he's the only president who did federal prison reform. I have a personal friend named Kyle Sandler. He's the top federal prison consultant in the United States. He's the top one in TikTok. Like he's a big deal. Yeah. And he said Trump got me out in half the time that I was supposed to get out. Try to tell me something that gets me to vote against that guy. Nothing. So let's start with this. I voted for Trump the first time. I voted for Trump the second time. I went to prison, and because of him, I got out on time to vote for him a third time. So nice. Let's start with that. Second, an observation for the Cubans. I was doing time with a small group of Cubans, and I became very good friends with an older Cuban guy we used to call Red. And one day we were walking around, and we were like, "Oh wow, that store they closed the store, and we don't know when it's going to open again. Oh wow, everybody is forced to think and dress the same way in here. Oh wow, the air conditioning went out. We don't know when it's going to turn back on. Oh wow, they can come in here and take all our stuff whenever they want. Oh, wow, this is a lot like communism." Cuba is a floating prison, and it is confirmed by the guy who went to federal prison. Right. The system in there was exactly like Cuba. You're only allowed to buy a certain amount of things. Everything is rationed. The store can close whenever it wants and open whenever they feel like it. You cannot wear anything besides what they tell you to wear. You cannot do whatever besides what they tell you to do. Like it's total dictatorship on another level. And I was like, wow, Cuba really is a prison after I went there, because our circumstances in there were probably better than the circumstances in Cuba right now.
Yes, 1,000%. Yeah. Prisons here are they're tienen la ¿cómo se llama? Obligación de tener derechos humanos. And Cubans, they don't have any rights. Prisoners here have human rights, 1,000%, 1,000%. Prisoners here have it better than regular citizens in Cuba.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Don't
even mention the political prisoners. Don't even mention the prisons in Cuba.
Oh, no, yeah. We can't compare American prison to Cuban prison by any. I actually made a video the other day reacting to the scene in Scarface where like Manny's like, "Oh, it's not like Cuba. The prisons here are like hotels," and he's like, "Oh, what are you high?
What are you fucking high?"
What are you fucking high? And I made a video about an old man on the street in Cuba who had done 27 years in a Cuban prison, and the things he told you were just like, what? Yeah. Like that's the craziest stuff I've ever heard in my life. Like it's crazy. Yeah, it's wild.
One of the things I also want to touch up on for the people that really take care, when they want to be wishy-washy, and I actually talked about it on the current episode I did in the tape deck. But there's an author named Anna Flaster. If you got a chance to go check out the episode, phenomenal story, phenomenal book. But we were talking when I did the episode during that time. We talked about there was the heat of the moment where Funky was going to his whole deportation thing, and I'm like, before everything came out that he was a Trump supporter, I made a comment that like it's insane that with this country we got certain political fools that have this agenda. You have this dude who's a law-abiding citizen, who's an activist, who's a rapper, who does well for his community, and people don't want to like get behind this story. Mind, this is before the whole Trump thing. That's the first thing that came out of the whole thing. So I'm like, you have this guy who got this story, and for whatever reason, like I mean, I found it interesting that Fox didn't even like touch the subject for whatever reason.
Mm.
Well, you won't do this, but then we'll invest our whole time on this Maryland man, who's really not a Maryland man. He really was a gang member who was human trafficking, who came here illegally, who was forced deportation like 4 times, who beat his wife, who did all this thing. And then the only defense they got that were like, well, we gotta do due process. And I'm like, yo, like the morality that people got here is beyond fucked up. It's beyond a mess. And it's very interesting how they get wishy-washy on what they want to fight for. And once again, I feel as though we get the 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 whole crap out of it because even though we didn't go a certain way politically, they still got this thing. But we're not fucking with you because you are here trying to destroy. What's the thing? They try to destroy democracy. Democracy is on the line, and it's just like beyond nasty work. So I had that incident, and even with this dispute I got with this person, that they could tell you like it shows you like when they want to be like law-abiding citizens or not. So when I talked about, I posted a video, the one with the funky on my TikTok, and somebody got to an argument with me. They're like, well, why should Cuban have these special privileges after all this stuff? Like, they should learn how to come here by the books. And I'm like, yeah, they should come here by the book. So you're telling me people that should be illegal should get deported, right? Because I looked at their page to see like what the hell they're representing, and they were talking about all these videos about people getting deported, all these videos, the Maryland dude. So I'm like, I find it very interesting that now you want to pick and choose on when you have to abide by the law. So by your logic, people that are illegal kind of get deported, and that just shut down the whole conversation. So it's very interesting how we get this hack out of it.
What I think is interesting about the Funky situation is that no one got behind him to help him, but all the Spanish media covered it as in, oh, Trump supporting Cuban rapper is getting deported. They all covered it as in like, oh, this guy, look, the guy that supported Trump, he's getting deported.
No, he got screwed.
Yeah.
Too bad, so sad.
Instead of being like, oh, what can I do to help this guy? Which the Peachy Boys, from my recollection, called an immigration lawyer, got him in contact with the Funky, and he's working on it to keep him here. And I actually saw a clip from Lo Peachy Boys podcast where the lawyer went on there and he was like, listen, guys, this is like a standard letter that everybody gets. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get deported. This is just like everybody gets this. If Funky's not going to get deported, I'm going to work on his case. And, so it's funny how people are quick to jump on the bandwagon, like on the Spanish media side, which is heavily left-leaning. Like, it's not like in the American media where you have Fox News and CNN. That doesn't exist in the Spanish world. All you have is left. Telemundo, Univision, and then aside from them, most of the independent media is also left-leaning. Like, like Moluco TV, he's a super Democrat, and like a bunch of other Spanish media. So it's just something interesting, just an observation that I personally saw.
The weird thing about that one, when I saw the first one that gained traction was a political one. So once I saw who the person wrote it, it was a freaking Cuban.
Yeah,
it was a freaking Cuban. And then once I saw what she looked like, I'm like, oh yeah, typical. Don't want to be judging what your looks like, typical Irish. Yeah, man. So, any regrets? Regrets about the way you guys voted this year?
Go ahead. You first.
Go ahead.
I don't have any regrets. I just believe that from my side, I personally voted and intend and believe that we vote for our best interest here. Cuba is, and it will always be, very dear to my heart because it's what actually defined me first. But we live in the United States of America. And what I believe that what happens here is what should drive me to vote. Cuba needs to handle its own problems when it comes to whatever's going to happen there. We will continue to push so people know. We will continue to, point out the hypocrisy, point out the wishy-washy, as you stated. We will point out the truth. But when it comes down to it, people in Cuba will need to do their part for that to end. So my vote didn't go necessarily for any changes in Cuba. or for Cubans. And I know that a lot of people are like, "Oh, no, but you're Cuban and you should be upset about what's happening to Cubans." You know, a lot of Cubans have come in here and done things they shouldn't have done. They've lied at the border. The administration that was previous, in the White House, let a lot of people in, doing a lot of damage, saying a lot of lies. They have the oppressors living in the same neighborhoods and going to the same Walmarts as the political prisoners that they did, repudiation acts X amount of years ago. That's unacceptable. So at this point, we needed to clean house, and you cannot sit down and go through every single case and decide that everybody who deserves and who doesn't. At this point, hey, you have temporary status. That is not, you go. I mean, sadly, a lot of people that are good people will have to go, but we need to just kind of put an end to the madness. And there's no other way to do it. So no regrets. Although I do believe that they are, of course, the media is complicit in viralizing the cases that, people crying, the moms, the babies, etc. But honestly, I do believe that a lot of these cases and a lot of these ICE agents are doing these things on purpose, just to make the process look more harsh than it should be. I know that the priority isn't people that are just regular people. The priority is people that have antecedentes, records and stuff, DUIs. I know 4 or 5 people on the top of my head right now that don't have status in the US, and they all have DUIs. Wow. But they're just sitting there. Like, in my opinion, they're good people, in my opinion, but you do a crime and you're not even a documented person here, you need to go. Like, if it comes to that, you're the person that needs to go, not the mom that's got a breastfeeding infant. Like, honestly, I think those things just get pointed out, and I think that a lot of people within these organizations are just doing things to make them go viral because they want to give a bad light to what's going on. They just want to make sure that everybody sees how horrible and how inhumane the process is. That's basically it. It's their goal.
I'll approach this from a different angle. If anybody was aware about how futile the DEA's job is, they don't even put a dent. They don't even put a dent in the amount of drugs that get smuggled into this country. You know what a dent is? And with fentanyl coming into this country, I'm telling everybody right now, if you're watching this, it's a great time to quit drugs. Great time to quit drugs. The amount of fentanyl that it takes to kill somebody is like nothing. It's a pinhead. Nothing. It's like 0.01 of a gram. That you take too much and that's it. You're gone. Like the amount of people that came, nobody really understands the amount of people that came into the border over the last 4 years. You really don't, because there's no record of it. It was tens of millions of people. Yes. Tens of millions of people that we didn't keep track of. A lot of them were very bad people, brought in a lot of bad stuff into this country, trafficking people, trafficking drugs. So me personally, this is what I'm going to say. I was born in America. I'm an American citizen. I'm an American first. I'm a Cuban American. I love Cuba. I love my culture. But at the end of the day, I'm an American. And I agree with Spanglish. Like, I have to vote America first. And we need to get all the very dangerous people out of here. And unfortunately, there's going to be some casualties just because the system isn't perfect. I don't want those people to get deported. But there's some very minuscule cases where it does happen, unfortunately, and the news is sensationalizing it. We need to focus more on the fact that they're deporting thousands of people who are supposed to get deported versus one case out of 1,000 or 10,000 that isn't getting deported. That isn't supposed to get deported. I'm sorry.
Bad. Well, I mean, I won't drag my side of the situation. I just don't regret what I did with my vote. So if y'all don't like it, go fuck yourself. The end. So this has been the Take Deck. This has been the Take Deck with the Ruckus. Spanglish, Nelson, you're welcome here anytime. This will be the last time I catch up in here. You guys are fan favorites. And we're going to do this one more time, hopefully before the summertime ends. Greatly appreciate it. This is your boy, Cupid Mike. You've been listening to the podcast, Ruckus. We bring organized chaos. And if I'm not bringing organized chaos, I'm up at the Take Deck giving you some throwbacks. I'm out of here. Peace.